right, ready? Here we go. We're going to show you how to start it. So here's the port engine. Turn the key over. Makes a sound. Come over here. Push this button at the base, and then you move it out, and then back into neutral. And that blinking light stops blinking. Now it's fixed. Then you turn the key over just like you do a car.
Oh, I can feel it.
And then if you need to give it some gas, hold that button down again, and that keeps it in neutral while you give it some rev in the gas. So you show that. See? We can rev the gas. Alright. And that's it. And then one other thing, if you want to use the steering up top there's a button right here as well. Same kind of throttle assembly. Push that button and it says control. It allows you to take control of the throttle and the steering wheel up top. But you can only do one or the other. You can't do them at the same time. Alright, this is the upper helm. If you decide you want to steer from up top, which I usually do, I enjoy it unless it's cold or something or early in the morning. But in order to do that, you start it downstairs and get it running, and then you come up here and all you got to do is hit this control button right there, and it'll change the control up here to the top. And then if you want to move it back downstairs, you just go downstairs and hit the control button down there, and it'll do the same thing. It'll take the control down there. But they don't both operate at the same time. Either one or the other is working. Just a note, we have underneath this upper helm, we actually have a power sprayer if we ever need to use it. Usually we just use it at the end of the season. All right, to check the props, they're right underneath here. You can kind of see them. You can visually inspect them in here, but just underneath this little, I guess you can't see very well right now, but that's okay. You kind of see. There you go. But there's one of those on both sides. The fuel caps are underneath here. See that? On the left you have the port engine as well as the generator runs off of that fuel tank. On the right is the starboard engine. If you want to check it, I would just, if it's on too tight, just use like a quarter or something to open it. And then if you want to check the depth, there's a fuel gauge up front, but it's hard to trust a fuel gauge these days, especially with houseboats. So you get a stick and you can see it's pretty much full. You can do the same on the other side. All right, to get in the engine compartments, we just keep this metal bar here. It's kind of hard to get in. It's a little tight. You stick it in on both sides to open it. It's not easy. It's kind of tough to get to, but this is where the engines and the generators are. Push this to prop it up, and then you gotta kind of wiggle it up to get it up. See, there you can see the engine 5.0, the red generator right there. There's the batteries. Note that we have a hydraulic there, but we're missing that one there. So this one doesn't stay up the little swing, so be careful. All right, this is pretty important. The water line that feeds both our pump and our UV water system is filtered right here. Filtered through that line there. There's your shut-off valve, and yeah, one of these pumps goes to the slide and the other one goes through our UV water line. So probably a good idea to check that at least once a week. In fact, during the early season when there's a bunch of gunk in the water, I would check it about every other day. All right, so to check that filter, we're gonna close that shut-off valve, and we got to make sure you open it back up when we're done. So anyway, here we go. We'll pull this up. And then we'll twist this off. And sometimes it's a little hard, so there we go. And then we can pull it off. It'll leak a little, but it's all right. Take a look at it and see. It's early in the season. Look at all that gunk in there. Pretty bad. So we want to wash. Yeah, pretty gunky. So we're going to wash all that out and put it back on. Not a big deal, but yeah, we definitely don't want that blocking the line. So I'll clean that out and put it back on. All right. So clean it out. Again, this is for the slide pump and for the UV water line coming in. We're going to put this up in here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's okay. It just kind of pushes up in there. And then you pull this on it. And the key here is, this is like a rubber gasket. So you don't want to over tighten it because it'll unseat it. So just kind of, firm tight, but not overly tight, because if you do too tight, it's so hard to get off. And the other thing I mentioned that's key is we got to open up the water line again. So went ahead and open that up and we should be good. Okay, now we're on the port side. This is the water intake that goes into the generator. So really important. Same thing, we're going to clean it out. First thing, we got to close the shut-off valve. I'll do that. Okay, close. Do not forget to open that back up. That would be bad for the generator. All right, and then this one's a little different filter. It's real easy. Just turn it, pull it up. Sure enough, look at that gunk in there because of the time of year. Oh, just tons of gunk. I think it's the same. There's usually a little handle you can grab, but the handle is broken off. Okay, see all that gunk in there? Yeah, we just don't want that in there. Splash out anything else in there. Get that feeding into our generator. So we're going to clean that out and I'll put it back on. And then remember, I want to make sure we open up that shut-off valve. Got to have water going in.
Yeah.
All right, let's put it back in. Splash out any little gunk in there I can see. Push this down in, really easy. Rotate this on. It says right on there, hand tighten only. We don't want it cranking really tight because it's too hard to get off and it can unseat that rubber gasket. So it's plenty firm. Remember, we open this thing back up. Okay, sweet. We're good. Okay, real quick regarding water. You would think that lake water would be bad, but actually when we pull lake water, it runs through our UV filter system. So that's the water we want to use. That's the one that feeds all the main faucets and spigots throughout the houseboat. And you have unlimited water, though. You won't ever run out. All right, we got 2 bathrooms. Master in the back. I'll show you the one up front here. There's just the general one. We usually keep the window open at all times for obvious reasons. There should be chemicals in here. There's both liquid as well as the little packets. Should be TP in here, and then I think you saw there's a whole bunch of TP underneath the storage up by the front helm there. For these toilets, a couple of key things. In order to fill it up to do the number 2, you actually lift the pedal up. I'm sure you're familiar with that concept. All right, then you flush down. Flush, just make sure that seals. The other thing is you want to make sure you hear the water shut off, and it has shut off. But if it doesn't and it keeps leaking all night, one thing, it could fill up and overflow, or we had this once where eventually you can see it'll drain out. It's not that tight of a seal, but it'll fill up your tank overnight. Now your 40-gallon tank is full on day 1, and then you got to go empty it, which is a hassle, because that happened to me a couple years ago where one of us left it on and it kept running. So make sure that it's turned off, and you should be good to go. Obviously, you only can put RV toilet paper in here. We supply that toilet paper. Don't put any feminine products, don't put anything else in there except for organic and that TP. There should be a reminder sign up here about that stuff as well. I would put a treatment in maybe about every other day during the hottest time of the year. I don't know, you might even put one on each day. But again, there's 2 tanks, only about 40 gallons, so conserve as much as you can. If you can pee in the lake, pee in the lake. That's the best thing to do. Save some space. Just one note, these little tiny, this used to be the better water. It's not. That's not good water. This is the UV filtered water. It's drinkable. All the faucets are drinkable. You know, if you're real sensitive to water, I wouldn't drink it. Just drink, you know, bring your own bottled water. But, you know, generally it works pretty well for anybody. I've never got sick off of it. It works great.
I'm already on air.
All right. To start the generator, or the water heater, actually, let's flip the switch there. I don't have the generator on, so it's not going to work, or shore power. But you just flip that switch on and it should turn red. For the generator, there's a start button here. You just hold it down just like you're starting a car, so you hear it crank over, and then the lights will pop on here. If there's red lights going across here, it'll have like an error code. It means there's some issues. But once you get it up and running and start it, then you flip over this to gen, and then that'll mean that the generator is now powering all the all the electrical stuff. If you're on shore power, you just flip it to the other side, shore power, and that'll run all the electrical, including the trash compactor and the AC and the water heater. All right, so below the steering wheel, down below, there's actually a compartment down here, and we put a little sign here. We'll see if it makes it, but it tells you what's down there. So you'll see there's TP, paper towels, our electrical breakers, usually our vacuum store down here, but there's a lot of storage actually underneath here. Our air conditioner units are down underneath there, but to get to them, you just pull this apart, pull this away, and then this little metal piece just kind of comes up. You just pull it, and you get down in there. And again, the electrical panel is just up that direction. You'll see it. Hopefully you don't ever have to use it. I forget why, but sometimes when you have the generator running, it may turn off and blow a switch if the inverter is really low to begin with. I don't know if that's an issue anymore. That's what it was last year. It probably works fine now. Underneath these front area here, one of these has a hose on it. So if you want to use the water pump to hose something off, it's great for that. All right, we also have down below here, again, on the front of the boat. Well, first we have a trash bag right here with a bunch of stuff in it. There's some extra ropes in here. We keep our shovels in here as well. And then the ramp that you put on the front that I was talking about, that you connect, is found under here as well. So you grab this, you pull it out, and put it onto the front, and then connect it. You also see all of our house batteries and stuff down there. So you want to be real careful. You don't want to shove a shovel back there. Just set it on. Don't set it on the batteries or anything like that. Make sure you set it over here, because clearly, we don't want metal shovels sit on top of batteries. These batteries require service, and we have to add water to them. Also at the helm, you have the inverter controls. It's kind of hard to read, but maybe you can see it. But see right now, this says it's running at 25.4 volts. In the middle of the day, you'll see it well over 27. It's almost evening now. We've been running a lot of different things going without running the generator at all today. But this will stick around 25 through the night, run the refrigerator all night without any problem. Wake up and it'll still be right around 25. So the inverter system's pretty sweet. Obviously, when it gets hotter, we would be running the generator, which allows you to run the air conditioning as well, and the water heater, as well as the trash compactor. So those three things must have the generator running or shore power. You can see we have solar panels on top. They automatically charge the batteries that run the inverter. For the most part, the electrical will work all day long, as long as you're not doing any heavy vacuuming or microwaving all day. Usually the electrical will work all day and all night without ever running the generator, just based off the solar panels. So it's pretty slick that way. As long as we have good batteries, it works out pretty well. The inverter does a nice job. G on some of these outlets, that means it only works when the generator or shore power is working. Most of them have an I on it for inverter. It just means anytime the inverter's on, they work. So most of them work even when the generator's not working. We have the spare generator, just an extra generator. It's a very powerful generator. This is just in case you're out there and in desperate need and the generator underneath doesn't work. Just a nice backup generator. There's also the power cord you saw on the back that'll hook up to this generator. You can hook it up to the entire houseboat and run the houseboat from it. It's not ideal because it's loud, but you know, in a pinch, it's great. Okay, super important deal here. One thing that has plagued us in the past is where either people tie their boats onto this railing, or if they're being pulled away, they grab onto it really tight. Maybe it's a really, big waves are coming by, but those handles are just, they're not very strong. So anytime that you need to grab to hold on, or if you want to tie off, you got to tie off on the big heavy duty metal cleat. That's it. Never, ever, ever, and tell all your people, tie onto this or grab onto it. Now we have a bumper hooked onto it, that's fine, but don't grab that bumper either. Again, to hang on, you got to grab onto the cleat down below. In fact, I'm going to show you on the other side what happened last year. So let's go over here. You can see this. Yep, Exhibit A. So we're going to get that welded and fixed. But we have a ramp here. Hopefully I can do this. You see this ramp, and then you use the connections to connect the ramp onto there, and you put the other end obviously on the beach. What we like to do, we actually take a big old Rubbermaid at the base of the ramp, so the kids have to step into that and then walk up the ramp. That way they don't bring any mud from the shore up onto the houseboat. It just cleans off their feet automatically. So one off of there. All right, and we're gonna take that, we're gonna hook 84 over to the right, is it?
Yep, it's right there.
All right, cool. All right. You got it? Wire, good. Yeah, wire. Goes through the little hole. Hold it in place. All right, these are our 4 anchors. It's kind of sunny out, so you can't see very well. Anchors that we have. We also have, you see the blue ropes, those are just to tie up to the dock with. There's 2 on the back, 2 in the front. You see there's a chain that holds them in place. My recommendation, I mean, you guys have all done this before, but just to make sure that you bury these in, ideally in wet sand or just heavy sand. If it's in soft sand, it can definitely be pulled. We definitely have tied these on rocks in the past. Like if you have a big massive rock, it's easy just to tie it onto that versus anchoring in. I don't know if we've ever said you can't do that. I've done it. But notice that it does shred our ropes. In fact, we're due probably to replace at least 1 or 2 of these ropes by the end of this next season. Closet, the latch is broken, so we grab this right here, keep it there, and just stick it in that lock. Stick it in that lock and just twist it, and it pulls open. Pretty easy, but. And also in here we have our big extension cord, some other starting fluid, cleaners, things like that, spare bilge pump, jumper cables. All right, mops and brooms and things like that, they're in this other closet on the starboard side. All right, for the auxiliary gas tanks, there are keys that lock them up, which is required, I think, by law or something. But anyway, the keys are behind the curtain here. Here's the helm. Behind the curtain, you'll see a key there. It says gas right on it. I'm gonna grab that. Just gotta unlock the key right here. All right, open it up. We're good to go. And if you want to pump gas, pull that off and then pull this thing on and that turns on. All right, here's the other auxiliary or toy tank for fuel. This is just a gravity feed, but again, same deal with the key. Just unlock it with the same set of keys. But when you do this, you take this hose, you run it downstairs. I usually just fill up the toy tank down below when it's empty. But note, this one holds a little more than that toy tank down below. Sometimes it's hard to get the siphon to go on it. I don't know, I've tried a bunch of different ways, even using my mouth. But usually if there's gas in the line, then the gravity will flow and it'll pull out. But it's still a trickle and it takes a while. This is another gravity feed toy tank up top. It's a work in progress. It's actually not fully installed yet. We still need to put the vent in up top, and that's going to go right where that duct tape is. So it's empty right now. We'll fill it up once we get the ventilation on it and the lock on it as well. We have this old school, jet ski or wave runner crane. I just recommend you don't use it unless you're, doing something major and lifting a massive table up here or something like that. Can you play a tune for us? All right, Mega's sitting on the mats here. I think there are 4 mats in this sort of futon couch. You can unzip it, the bag, and you see all the futons in there. Some over here, same thing. All right, here's the barbecue. This is where we do most of our cooking in the, in the summer when it's hot outside. We don't want to cook inside. It makes it heat up. It's a great barbecue though. We have all the tools and cleaners and stuff. The tools are in the kitchen, but there is some scrubbers and cleaners and even some cleanser in there. We usually keep 2 propane tanks. They're both full right now. It's beginning of the season. Obviously you have to, just like with any barbecue, you got to open it up. The electrical start does work. We also include this griddle, which clearly needs to be cleaned. But this griddle is amazing. It's great for pancakes or sausage, whatever. But we'll even, like we put enchiladas, in a foil tin and set it on here, and then just put the barbecue on low, and it cooks like an oven, and that way it doesn't heat up the houseboat. But this thing's great. The only thing I would say is make sure you clean the barbecue as well as clean the griddle. When you clean the griddle, there's a couple of bottles of PAM in the kitchen that you can use to make sure you oil it at the end of your trip, just to keep it nice and good and clean. Obviously you don't want to put soap on a cast iron griddle. All right, propane tanks, we're up top here. We have 4 tanks up here, but we only have 1 hooked up. The only thing this feeds is our stove. And right now, our stove top works, our broiler works, the oven does not. So we usually use our barbecue to oven, use as the oven. But if this runs out, just disconnect it just like you would a barbecue and put it on one of these others, or swap it out. Be real careful with this line here. You can tell it's been twisted in the past, so just be real careful with it. These 4 tanks plus the 2 down below by the barbecue should last us most of the season. All right, we have a slide with a gate. Downstairs I'll show you where the slide switch is. All right. Oh yeah, we just wrote it on there, slide. So we hit that, turn it on, and you can see the flow will start coming out here. If it's a low flow, you can actually adjust it by turning it up or down. If you're towing a boat or jet ski or whatever, you want to attach to one of these solid posts on this side or the other side. Either one works great. There is a ladder on the back. You can pull this up and slide it back in, and there's a little clip to hold it in place. All right, cool. And then the way, like usually if you're thinking you want to pull from down here, that's not how this one works. You just grab from the back and it just pulls forward. It's kind of funky, kind of cool actually, really easy to do. So you just do that. And then there you go. All All right, here's the trash compactor. Again, this only works when you have generator or shore power. You turn the power on, and you just, turn the power on, then you just turn the dial to the left like you're starting a car, and it'll pack it. In order to open it, just step on this bottom thing. It opens it up. There are specific trash bags for this in this closet. You'll see there are trash compactor bags that are in that blue box. We also have the big bags for the big trash bags, and then we have the 13-gallon for the kitchen trash can. All right, we got 4 remote controls, DVD player, TV soundbar, and the ONN or Google TV remote. This is the smart system because the TV is not a smart TV. It's a little bit older. In order to turn it on, just power up the TV. Hit the power button. LG. All right. The ONN system or the Google TV system. This remote. It actually works for this little guy here. If you have your own system and you want to bring it in, or your game system, whatever, just unplug this guy here, a little HDMI, and plug it in whatever system you want, and that should work. Turn the power on this guy, the system, and you'll see it pops up, and you can log in your own app system if you have Wi-Fi. If you don't have Wi-Fi, then don't worry about it. There's a stereo here. It actually does work. You just got to flip the switch on, and it'll crank out. It takes a second, and then it'll crank up. You'll see it right there. It's got a little auxiliary, which is nice. So you can just plug in your phone there if you want, or I plug in a Bluetooth adapter into that jack as well sometimes. But the stereo goes throughout the whole houseboat. One note: this is part of the houseboat rules. No smoking on the boat and no pets. We have some people that are sensitive to pets. It's anyway, just part of the rules. We used to have a penalty for it. We'd just rather everybody just abide by it, so we're all on the same team. We love pets, but we can't bring them on the houseboat.